Vote and approval. Motion second. Was Hill second. Question, comment? All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Item number 3 is the approval of the September meeting minutes. Moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Approved. Item 4 is the public comment. Have anyone in the public? Nope. Great. Item number 5 is consent and votes. Items.
Move 5A and B.
Second. Any questions, comments, discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Approved. Item number 6 is the America Walks presentation. Addison.
We've they're not quite here yet, so I'm not sure if we want to move to a separate agenda item. Wait a moment. Yeah, we can move on if that works.
Okay.
Keep it rolling, baby.
We'll back to item 6. We'll move on to item 7. Report on the active transportation plan update.
Yeah, very quickly. Hi. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Active transportation has been very active this summer and fall. I'm not going to go over everything just at the top here. I apologize. I had one more thing. Okay. However, Addison and I have been out in most of your communities with your staff all summer long talking about active transportation. A lot of the things that have been going on here at the MPO as far as Vision Zero, the guiding principles, and things like that, all participation, all those pieces, and those are really coalescing very nicely. Some of the things that are really rising to the top that I'll hone in on today. We had a great, and America Walks, they make it. We had a great walk on Drake's campus with AARP and America Walks, with a lot of neighborhood and nonprofit organizations, just trying to get the word out about how to look at an intersection and how we can all look at the intersections differently and do that with safety and also simplicity and consistency, right? Consistency is something that we continually run up on, is one of the emerging issues. So Vision Zero is honestly what is leading this charge. And in that vein, the rise of I don't know what else to call it, but for today it's an e-moto. It is on the rise. So we see these electric scooters, electric bikes functioning in different ways that scooters and bikes have previously. And the discussions at the MPO prior to now really have been around Lime and Bird and some of those organizations coming into the metro rather than those personal devices. And so the conversation really is moving to those personal devices at this point, and it is a very complex issue. We already have seen, unfortunately, some fatalities in the metropolitan area due to this issue, and others within the bike and pedestrian space. And so we are very much taking this to heart, but also putting it into our work. And so I'm really appreciative that MAC, the Metro Advisory Council, if I'm correct on that acronym, we have so many of, they invited us in to have a conversation there. And I don't know if Courtney, Mayor, would like to comment on what happened at MAC the other day and kind of next steps there. You don't have to either.
No, so this has been something that has been on the rise over the last 2 years, but definitely has mushroomed, I would say, this year in our community. And I know that we heard from Mayor Binns and Ankeny and several of our cities that are dealing with the same issue at MAC this week, and had invited the MPO in to talk with us about it. From our perspective, we would like to have, I think, a consistent way of approaching it across the metro, as many of our sidewalks and trails interconnect between cities, and yet enforcement is very different between communities. In Waukee, we're really struggling with how to enforce because so many of the people on devices are children, and they are operating in an unsafe way or not obeying rules of the road because they don't know them. And so it's causing a lot of issues from a safety perspective, not just for the kids themselves, but knocking over the elderly on trails, or now they have these things that look exactly like dirt bikes on our sidewalks. And so we're just seeing it mushroom. So the conversation really evolved around a regional, perhaps consistent approach and coming up with something. At the same time, Plexo, which is the Polk County Law Enforcement Something Association, I still don't know what that stands for, but they are working on, they have a subcommittee that is working on potential state legislative language because the state code is not helpful in as it stands today. And so adjusting some state legislative language. And that would coalesce through them up through the Iowa Police Chiefs Association, hopefully to the legislature this session. We are not the only state that is dealing with that. I know that our chief has received legislation from a couple of other states that are looking at this, and he's evaluating that language. So there's got to be something we can do, and so that's sort of, we've formed a committee at MAC too, which apparently I'm on. I was told after I left the other day, and yeah. It
happens when you bring up an issue.
Yeah, and so we formed a committee at MAC. Plex is looking at this, and I know that you guys are working with state agencies as well. Did I hit it?
I think Mayor Clark said it very well. We had a good discussion about it, and our bosoms there as well. So I think, again, we're all recognizing this as an issue to some degree, some more than others. I haven't seen it quite as much in the trouble,
I haven't heard a lot, so that's kind of strange. Have you heard much?
but
Crazy now too.
No. Maybe they're all out here suburban.
yeah,
Scooters, 5 scooters going down the street, down the sidewalk, just
Finally, 30 miles an hour.
cars having to stop.
Yeah, electric bikes.
I did see it for when I went out west to Western Clyde, right at Hollis's Road
Yep.
and Dunwood.
Be the gang
Yeah,
of 10-year-olds on
Yeah.
the dirt bike.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
so.
That's pretty live, isn't that Council Bluffs?
Hey.
Oh.
So I agree, so we need to, it's best, I think, that we get around this together and try to get it.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, one of the things, I mean, I just encourage if we're trying to get consistency to engage a broader group of stakeholders, I mean, minimally, like reach out to the street collective for this conversation.
I think that's good, Josh. And again, I was on the, I don't know how many in this room. Scott, were you on the LPC meeting earlier today for the League of, no.
Oh, no, not that.
But I'm on the LPC meeting and it came up at the League of Cities as well, not from anybody in the metro area, but from, I can't remember what city it was. So it's not just a metropolitan issue, and it's a statewide issue. And, I think, Dylan, you remember we talked about the rural urban issues, maybe being sensitive to that. And that came up during that conversation too. So I think we need to look at it from a metro standpoint, but then also be sensitive to the fact that in more rural towns in Iowa, these are more primary forms of transportation for some folks. We need to be sensitive to that issue.
And I will note too that I've reached out to the Iowa DOT to see if they're working on it. They have like a statewide bicycle district committee. They were going to talk about it after our prompting. They also convene all the MPOs and RPA. So at their next meeting, this will be updated. We'll bring back whatever we do there. Hopefully get more of a statewide effort going.
Yeah, so as you all know, I like to take on the super easy topics here at the NPO. And so this is now something that I'll be sitting in on a lot of meetings. So I'm going to the Plexa meeting next week with Chief McCluskey and already communicated about that. In most cases, that way I will be a fly on the wall and contributing through that and then bringing things back to the conversation. You'll see GTSB here, so that's the Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau. Really, it is a statewide issue, and they do a lot in the space of communicating out to the public and campaigns and things like that. And so some of the conversations have been so far, what is your role? Where are you guys headed in this direction? And they actually don't know, but they're willing to come along for, I'm not going to say it, for the ride. And so there's even a couple of grant programs that can go into that education. Really, from the MPO's perspective, the last bike ped plan really had a lot of things that somebody should do. And in this one, we're really trying to clarify, what can the MPO do? What can the region do? What can partners do? And to that effect, when we're going out with these walkabouts, just met with Jeremy, have been out with the avenues and with the DOT, and a lot of those partners continue to come along and those listening sessions as well. And so definitely incorporating those, because we might not be the best mouthpiece, we might just be part of the quilt, and that's perfectly fine. So knowing our space in that way. But yeah, a lot of this is coming up. Really finishing up the last couple of walkabouts over the next week and a half or so, and then moving into listening sessions and throughout the rest of the fall, as well as data analysis and things like that. In the post-meeting email, you will see a form that people can fill out if they'd like to self-select to have a listening session to talk about this in a neighborhood or with a group that we are not necessarily connected with. We are putting a number of tables together. However, we are not the end all be all of knowing who should be in the conversation. And so this is a public process. So that'll be in there. If you want to share that with any of your colleagues, by all means. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions at this time. There's no action on this item.
Anything else? Thank you. We'll jump back to item 6, presentation for America Walks. Yes.
Happy to do a quick brief introduction for Ian and Thomas. They've been great partners to work with as we were preparing the Drake neighborhood, the Dogtown District Walkability Workshop earlier in October. Ian Thomas is the technical assistance lead at America Walks, and Derek Brumfield is a walkability, rollability advocate, also on the board of directors for America Walks. Again, they've been great partners to work with, and they presented to the technical committee a few weeks ago, and we're happy to have them here for a short presentation about what the work that they do, some resources that they have for for communities, the value of walk audits, and then a little bit of their experience that they had here in Des Moines. So without further ado, I'll pass it off to Ian, who I believe has some slides.
Great. Thanks very much, Addison. And I apologize if we were supposed to be on the agenda earlier. We missed our slots. I was in a meeting that just overran. But we do have, I just need permission to share, Addison or somebody.
Have it now.
Okay. There we go. All right. And I'm sure that the clever folks who do like internet technology programming and so on could work out a way to make it easier to share that than it seems to be, at least with my limited knowledge. Anyway, thank you to the MPO and specifically the policy committee for an opportunity. We're just going to take about 10 minutes, Garrett and I, to talk about the work we do and specifically about the workshop and walk audits that we did in Des Moines, in the Drake and Dogtown neighborhood about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So America Walks is a national advocacy and education organization focused on creating safe, walkable, accessible communities all across the United States. And a lot of our work is through communications, and we have a large subscriber base that receives our e-newsletters and other communications. And if you would like to receive our communications, then please just go to americawalks.org and you can sign up there to receive those. Our mission is to advance safe, equitable, accessible, and enjoyable places to walk and move by giving people and communities the resources to effectively advocate for change. And we see these two components of supporting and promoting participation in walking events and programs and walking just as a practice, and the more difficult process of policy change and community design change to make communities actually walkable as sort of mutually reinforcing. And we use that engagement through walking activities to encourage people to become advocates for the change that is needed to really create great, walkable, accessible communities. We deliver webinars showcasing success stories, new toolkits, best practices in working as an effective advocate, book author interviews. There are quite a lot of books about walking and walkability available these days. And We do a much more of a deep dive training program called the Walking College every year through our National Walking College. We provide fellowships to about 25 local advocates all across the country. They go through a 6-month training program, a lot of study activities, online discussion forums, working with a personal mentor, and ultimately each fellow develops their own personal walking action plan for their community, which they then go about implementing. And we stay in contact with the fellows after the program and track their progress in getting complete streets policies passed, getting unsafe intersections reconfigured, new organizations and events focused on expanding walkability in their communities. We have held a national walking summit on a number of occasions. And at one of these, Garrett Brumfield, who I'm going to hand off to, came along and helped us really expand our thinking and our language and our terminology, to walkability and accessibility, rollability, and so on. So at this point, Garrett, I'll hand it over to you to pick up the story.
Sure. Thank you very much, Ian and Addison, and everyone else there at the MPO. I hope you can see and hear me. I would love to be there with you again. We had a great time just a few short weeks ago, but it is an honor to be with you all virtually today. I'm coming to you from Roanoke, Virginia, and as Ian said, I was able to, in 2017, for the National Walking Summit, lead a walking and rolling audit, the first that I ever really did. And that came from the advice of Ian and Jonathan Stalls, who you saw on the last slide, and who I'll briefly give a plug to and a mention of in just a moment. But as a person with a disability, before that, I did not understand the connection between walkability and rollability and how I can provide such insight as a person using a mobility scooter, living with cerebral palsy. I have that insight to give because everyone moves differently and everyone needs to be able to have the access and the means to get around in their communities. And so from there, Ian and I developed a series of Jonathan, and many of others developed a series of walking and rolling audits. And this is one that we did in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is only about an hour and 45 minutes away from where I'm at now. And we, not only did the Wheels in Motion, which, showcases my life and my story living with a disability a little bit, but also it encourages people to get into wheelchairs of their own. So we borrowed wheelchairs from the local Center for Independent Living. And as you can see, we also took public transit. And public transit for those of us with disabilities is not always easy because it takes more time to get in, to tie down. In the last couple of weeks, I've been traveling with doing this same work in Rhode Island, in Des Moines, Iowa, and other parts of New England. And we've noticed time and time again that it does take more time, energy, and effort to use public transit. And sometimes the riders are not keen on that. Sometimes the drivers aren't prepared to support like they should. And the other photo you see here is of me me taking my mobility scooter down what was deemed to be um, set asphalt, but clearly not so much. So we say wheels in motion. My wheels were not in motion for this moment. I had to get a push out of the asphalt, but it was a good story and a good lesson for those while we were doing the audit. And we also addressed the Route 29 corridor there in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is a very busy street, and they just completed a pedestrian bridge there, but it's very dangerous. VDOT did not want us to cross the street, I remember. So we had to stay on one side of the street just because it was so dangerous for pedestrians, whether you're walking or rolling, to cross the highway. And but that's another thing we need to highlight. We need to highlight signal times, how long it takes. Also, sometimes, that is a person that works I think if I remember correctly, he works for VDOT, but you know, as when he did experience, rolling in a wheelchair up and down the sidewalks, he needed support, and sometimes you do. I mean, sometimes I need support, whether I'm in a manual wheelchair or my mobility scooter or whatever. It is okay to have that support, but also the community needs to be as accessible as possible to give the pedestrian, whether walking or rolling, as much support as can be.
Maybe I'll pick it up
Yeah,
again, Garrett, at this point.
sure. Yeah,
Garrett
go
mentioned
ahead.
our partner, Jonathan Stalls, who's standing at the back there. He works with America Walks, with Garrett and myself on a number of programs and workshops, and he has a social media campaign called Pedestrian Dignity, in which he sets up walking, rolling events in various cities and invites public officials, transportation officials in particular, along to see how very difficult and dangerous it often is for ordinary people to go about their activities of daily living, whether it's getting to, a doctor's appointment or getting to a grocery store or getting to the nearest bus stop. So just kind of leaning a little bit into the data, the number of people killed while walking on America's roads has been rising substantially every year, going back well over a decade. And now we're at about 7,500 people every year. That's more than 20 people every day somewhere in America getting killed in a pedestrian fatality. Um, and we know that speed is really the most important factor. And this just shows the likelihood of a pedestrian being killed when hit by a car at various different speeds. And what we take away from this graphic is that if we want to create safe streets for pedestrians, then we need to keep vehicle speeds down below 30 miles an hour, preferably below 20 miles an hour in those places where there is pedestrian activity. So our strategy to try to move towards a transportation future where vehicle speeds are slow, except on, separated highways, we start by training people to do walk audits. And this was the focus of our event just a few weeks ago, hosted at Drake University, and doing walk audits around that Drake and Dogtown neighborhood. The walk audit you may be familiar with, but there are sort of two distinct but connected purposes. One is to use a toolkit like the AARP walk audit toolkit and checklists to, detail what engineering elements of a walkable community are there and what are missing or what is needed. How is the traffic behaving? What kind of amenities are there for pedestrians? But it is also a community engagement exercise. And in many ways, this is a more significant and long lasting outcome from a series of walk audits. And I think about 25 to 30 local advocates and professionals in various fields attended the workshop at Drake University a few weeks ago. And we asked every one of them, after having participated in a walk audit over the coming weeks and months, to organize their own walk audit with a new group of people that they invite, that they choose to come along and catalog the walkability of a neighborhood or a business district. These are the goals that we set for that walk audit workshop, and I'm not going to read them all, but I'll just leave the slide up there for you to sort of cast your eyes over there. And we, Addison and Allison and Michael Wagler with AARP Iowa, debriefed afterwards and felt that we really did accomplish these. As you're well aware, the active transportation plan process is getting going now, and our hope was that that workshop, that initial walk audit training would provide some real energy to this community engagement effort and the development of a really strong active transportation plan. So I'm going to just hand back to Garrett for the final slide here.
So here's my plug for Iowa. When I was in Des Moines, I happened to take a different advocacy meeting at the Harkin Institute. I met Daniel Van Zandt, who works there, and who did I meet? None other than Senator Harkin. So it was amazing. You never know who you might meet, where you might be. So I just encourage everyone, just show up, and you too might meet some really nice people, as I did in Des Moines. And I continue to do all across the country. So it was amazing to meet him and share aspirations with him. And thanks for all he's done to create and cultivate the Americans with Disabilities Act 35 years ago.
Great. Well, we'd be happy to take any questions if you have time, but I know you've got a busy schedule.
Have any questions or comments? For Ian or Garrett?
Yeah, what were the results of the?
Other audit results available or anything like that?
Yeah, we can talk about that. So one of the things with this is in the workshop, there are specific audits, but also looking at the whole field and teaching people how to go out and do from there. And so, yes, we have probably about 20. We went on 3 different routes, and so we can synthesize that. At this point, we have the whole workshop report, but we can put that together.
It's a synopsis of.
Yeah, honestly, each one was a little bit different, so we can point that out.
Thank you, Allison, Addison, Ian, and Garrett. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Right, we'll move on to item 8, report for the 2025 Regional Trail Pavement Condition Report. Marcus?
I think everything should be working. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so as we mentioned last month, we're going to bring back the 2025 data science report. A couple of program updates. We've moved processing internally. As you might remember, when we rolled this project out nearly a decade ago, we're outsourcing the data analysis to a company that had the data called we worked with Intrans to develop some algorithms to help us develop a custom tool. We're now running the data internally, which saves us a lot of time. Other recent changes moving forward, starting in 2025, we're focusing on what we're calling regionally significant trails, which are the regional trail network and then trails and side paths along major corridors. And we'll focus on those every year. And then local trails will be the focus of data collection for cities. So if you have an intern, you need to get out there during the summer, let us know. You schedule you to have the bike, get them out there. Or if you want to go out and ride in the community, you're welcome to that. So we have our online map and story map put up where you can go through and look at a lot of the data and dig in to what's been collected. And we'll note that Grimes just delivered the bike. They were doing some local trails, so we'll get that data processed and updated to the map as well. But as you can see there, that's generally our coverage area that we're looking at right now. As regionally significant trails continue to get built, we'll add that to our network. And then just a quick map or a quick graph of how those regional trails are growing. You can see we collected a good number of trails, and generally speaking, most of them are smooth or very smooth or good to excellent condition. Just from a roughness perspective, we do also process a lot of photos that give us tracking details for all the trails. Those we're processing right now, and we're going to link those to the website soon, as soon as our IT support helps us finish that last little tweak. And then we'll be able to get that online so you can see kind of a holistic picture of how well the trails are doing, from roughness to cracking to everything. Any questions on the beta bike or 2025 data? Oh, our next steps. We're going to keep collecting data. That's all you need to know.
Can you notify the people if you see something within our own community, maybe the page and
Yeah, if there's anything drastic, we
to let you know, again, we do this in the summer and most of the time the crews have kind of gone out, done a point. So for the most part, they're rideable. If they're not rideable, we have trouble because we can't ride.
Item 9 is the report on the proposed calendar year 2026 meeting dates. John?
Thank you. We typically bring this to you in November to vote, and we will still do that next month, but we wanted to give you more of a heads up what the calendar might look like for next year. This year, as you might recall, we made a slight change to our technical and executive committee. We put those both on the same day, that first week of the month. That way we have a week in between and then we have a class. For those of you that are on the executive committee, I guess I'd be curious if that is continued, if that works. And if so, we will continue to go about that, that scheduling. Don't need an answer right this second, but something to be thinking about before we vote on things next month. The other thing that I'll point out here is typically we don't have the policy committee meet in March, July, or December because vacations and holiday break and all those kind of things. You'll see here, one thing that we are going to try to do, given enough notice, is to not have any committees meet in July or December. We've been able to do that a few times this year where we didn't have tech or exec meet in addition to that, in addition to policy. So that will be our attempt. We can't always promise, things might pop up, but that will be the attempt. I will note though that you see dates for March. I think if we look back over the last 5 years that we've been doing this, we've had a meeting every March. Something has always come up in March. So we thought, why fight it? Let's just plan on having the meeting. If something, it can be canceled, then we will do that. But we'd rather cancel it rather than try to quickly bring it back in. So those are a couple of things just to point out to you. Please take some time to look at this. Let us know if there's major conferences that this conflicts with or anything like that, that we can make sure we know now, we can work around it. That always seems to come up on the technical committee side of things, maybe not so much on the policy committee, but we're asking all our committees to look into that. Pretty brief update for you here. This will be back next month for your approval. Let us know if there are questions, comments, concerns between now and then. Thank you. Spring break. Okay.
Item 10 is the director's report.
Thank you. I have a couple items for you here. As we did last month, I just want to walk through this in the framework of our strategic framework. So making sure that we're always keeping these 4 key elements in front of us and touch on a few things that we haven't already talked about earlier in the agenda. So one is just a quick reminder that there's a survey out there for my review. You probably got a couple emails from the chair over the last couple of weeks. That closes tomorrow, so please take some time, fill it out if you have not already done so. If you have already done that, thank you very much for doing that. 2, I want to let you know that Carl Saxon has left the MPO. He was doing a lot of our bike ped stuff, so we thank him for his service and wish him well in the future. We will be seeking to fill that position here over the next month or 2, as soon as we can figure out what makes sense for us as we fill that and go through that process of advertising and get it approved. Finally, with respect to this, something else that we'll talk about next month a little bit, but again, wanting to you start thinking about, by the time we meet next month, we'll have gone through elections. We will start getting a better sense of who's going to be in office, who you might want to be appointing if you're the ones that have that decision on councils. Just be thinking about who you want to have come to the MPO. Typically, we just say, here you go, it's up to you, figure it out. But if you want to be a little more thoughtful, if you want us to meet with anybody ahead of time, if they're curious what the MPO is, happy to sit down with them and do that. One other note on 2026 is that Chair Holm will be turned out. Vice Chair is one of those people not running for re-election. So we're going to have this void of leadership. We don't have that clean succession planning like we did last time too. So if you are interested in becoming, getting on the executive committee, getting into a leadership position, start thinking about that now. And again, feel free to reach out if you have any questions or curious what that might look like. Happy to chat with people. We go into the next box, which is our regional planning and federal excellence. Just prior to this meeting today, we had our funding review committee that met, and this was the first time this group has come together. If we recall, we agreed that we will not award funding this year or in this next cycle. And instead, we'll take a year and just really look at our process and what works, what doesn't work, what we want that to be. I'm showing up there on the screen the list of those committee members. One caveat, Jamie Lutzring from West Moines is filling in for Tom Haddon. But that group all met today. I thought we had a really good meeting. would open if anybody wants to share any comments or feedback or anything like that, but just know that this group is going to be meeting prior to the policy committee meetings for the next several months at least. At key points, we will bring their work and the feedback we've been getting to you as well as to the technical committee. And we'll have some checkpoints to just make sure everyone's comfortable with what the group's been discussing. But just know that that work is underway. One other item within this category last week, I think it was just last week, right? The APA, American Planning Association Iowa chapter awarded the MPO as well as its consultant team transportation award for the comprehensive safety action plan that we did earlier this year. So really good work out of the team and the consultant team and all of you for supporting that and making it a great project. For the enhanced partnerships and services, obviously we talked about the MAC meeting. I think that's an example of this, but I won't dwell on that since we already spoke about it. Another key partnership that we've been cultivating over the last 18 months or so is having quarterly meetings with Iowa DOT District 1. That's something that we hadn't traditionally done, but again, we've been fostering that. So we met a couple of weeks ago and had some really good conversations about, especially around what do we do with safety. You know, obviously we have this comprehensive safety action plan. We have this Vision Zero commitment. The DOT does a lot of projects in our region, and we want to make sure that there's coordination there. And I thought we had a really good meeting with that. The other thing that came out of that is DOT. They've talked about this when they do updates to us. They have a website that keeps you updated on all the projects that they're working on. So I know sometimes we get asked questions about what's happening with the West Vista Master, what's happening with the whole mess over there in West Des Moines and Clive, that area. They have that on their website.
Sound familiar?
Transportation specific mess on
Anyway, not involved.
We send out our post meeting emails. We will start including information or at least a link to that so that it's just kind of fresh and top of mind and you know where to look for that and not have to go seek that out.
We want to read about their dirt. Yeah, that'd be great.
Final thing here as we go into more of our purpose-driven innovation, those big projects that we're working on. Next month, just a heads up, water trails will be a big focus. There's been, if you weren't aware, work had to stop over the summer because of high water. That's starting to, or that has resumed now. There were some things that have to be fixed. So there were some change orders underway. A retaining wall failed. There was some street piling that had to be fixed. So those sorts of things, we'll have change orders for that, as well as some other things that weren't related to that at all. We also have been working on an amendment with USDOT because per our agreement, that project is supposed to be completed in December, and it's not going to be completed in December. That's been with the USDOT for a few months now. They're aware of it. They said it's not going to be a problem. They've just been working on some more pressing issues at the moment. But we're hopeful that comes back in November so that we don't have to reconvene in December, like I said, and we can hopefully keep to our no December meeting. Other big update is the multimodal impact study. That is very near completion now. We've been working with some of you are on the task force steering committee for that and have been seeing the results. So we're getting close to having that done. What we're doing now is working closely with DART on how do we roll that out. And that'll probably be something that we will start to share, but it'll be a rollout over the next couple of months, just so that we make sure we have a lot of engagement, a lot of support for that before we just throw it out there and potentially confuse people or have them not understand what's going on. So bear with us on that. If you're curious of what's in there, want to have any questions, reach out to us. We're happy to talk through it. But as far as more of a big public rollout, it's going to be a few months yet. Anything else I'm forgetting from the team or any collaboration on that? Okay. Thank you for your time.
It's item 11 and other non-action items of interest to the committee. Anyway. Well, all right. Well, our next meeting will be November 20th, 2025 at 4 p.m. Meeting is adjourned.